100 years before Christ. A young prince set out on a journey to ultimate wisdom. He traveled through pain and suffering to reach nirvana, the everlasting bliss we all dream of. He was the Buddha. He grew up in a palace surrounded by luxury and beautiful women. But he gave all this up to gain ultimate wisdom. He traveled through the darkest corridors of his mind to come face to face with the devil inside him. He founded the world's first religion, followed today by more than 400 million people, a religion where meditation is used to reach the state of complete happiness. The events of his life make up one of the greatest stories that was ever told. Ladies and gentlemen, here is the story, the life of the Buddha.
4,500 years ago, northern India was divided up into kingdoms and republics. The Buddha's father, King Suddhodana, was elected as chief of Sakya's tribe. Kingdom was called Kapilavastu City. His wife was Queen Maya. She was very beautiful. King Suddhodana and Queen Maya lived quietly and happily in Kapilavastu. One night, a dream came to Maya as she slept, and she was told that a great person who sought supreme knowledge was about to come into the family. Then, she was pregnant. Months passed. One day, the queen knew that the time was approaching for the son to be born. She went to King Suddhodana. And she said to him,
My lord, I would like to wander through the Lumbini garden. Birds are singing in the trees, and the sky is bright with flower dust. I would like to wander through the Lumbini garden.
Array yourself today in great splendor, Maya, riding a gorgeous palanquin. Let the most beautiful maidens carry you. Order your servants to use rare perfumes. Have them wear robes of pearls and bracelets of precious stones. Have them carry lutes, drums, and flutes, and sing sweet songs that will delight the gods themselves.
The queen stepped out and began wandering about aimlessly. She was happy, and behold, she found a rare tree. The branches drooping under the burden of the blossoms. She went up to it. Gracefully extending her hand, she drew down a branch. Suddenly, she stood very still. She smiled, and the maidens who were near her received a lovely child into their arms.
At the same moment, all that was alive in the world trembled with joy. The sick were rid of their suffering, the hungry were satisfied. Those to whom one had been forced became sober. Men had recovered their reason, the weak their strength, the poor their wealth. Prisons opened their gates to make it the cleanse of all evil. The child was named Siddhartha, meaning every wish fulfilled.
Siddhartha reached the age of marriage, King Suddhodana found him a wife named Yasodhara. She was beautiful and full of grace. Prince Siddhartha lived happily with his wife, the princess. Then, beautiful Yasodhara brought the prince a son, and he was given the name Rahula.
Without knowing the nature of sun. One day, someone spoke in the presence of the prince and told how the grass in the woods had become a tender green, and the birds in the trees were singing of the spring, and how in the ponds the great lotuses were unfolding. Then, like an elephant too long confined in his stable, the prince had an irresistible desire to leave the palace.
The king learned of his son's desire, and he knew of no way to oppose it. But King Suddhodana ordered the road to be cleared of beggars, of those who are sick and infirm, and of all who suffer, in order to make sure that Siddhartha must see nothing that would trouble the serenity of his soul, and he must never suspect the evil that there is in the world.
When the time came, the king sent for his son, and there were tears in his eyes as he placed him on the pillow. His gaze lingered over him, then he said to him, "Go." With that word, he gave him permission to leave the palace, though his heart spoke differently.
Siddhartha went out of the kingdom, away from his father's influence. First, he noticed an old man painfully making his way through the village. The man was using a walking stick. He was worn out and decrepit. His veins stood out on his body, his teeth chattered, and his skin was a maze of black wrinkles. A few dirty grey hairs hung from his skull. His head and limbs were palsied.
The prince saw this being, so different from the man around him. He gazed at him with sorrowful eyes, and he asked the charioteer, "What is this man with grey hair and body so bent? He clings to his staff with scrawny hands. His eyes are dull, and his limbs falter. Is he a monster? Has nature made him thus, or is it chance?"
The charioteer answered, "That which mars beauty, which breeds vigor, which causes sorrow and kills pleasure, that which weakens the memory and destroys the senses is old age." He too was once a child, nursing at his mother's breast. He grew, he was young, he had strength and beauty. Then he reached the twilight of his years. And now, you see him, the ruin that is old age.
The prince was deeply moved. He asked, "Would that be my fate too?"
The charioteer replied, "My lord, youth will also leave you someday. To you too will come troublesome old age. Time sapers our strength and steals our beauty."
The prince shuddered like a bull at the sound of thunder. He uttered a deep sigh and shook his head. His eyes wandered from the wretched man to the happy crowds.
Then noticed a sick man. He stared at him and asked the charioteer, "What is this man with a swollen stomach?" He is deathly pale, and pitiful cries escape from his lips. He gasps for breath. "See, he's falling! Charioteer, charioteer, what is this man?"
The charioteer answered, "My lord, this man knows the torment of sickness. He is weakness itself, yet he too was once healthy and strong."
The prince looked at the man with pity, and he asked again, "Is this affliction peculiar to this man? Are all creatures threatened with the sickness?"
The charioteer answered, "We too may be visited with a similar affliction. Sickness weighs heavily upon the world."
When he heard this painful truth, the prince began to tremble like a moonbeam reflected in the waves of the sea. Siddhartha turned to another direction of his street. This time he saw a corpse. Two men were carrying it, weeping. Siddhartha asked, "What is he?"
The charioteer replied, "My lord, he has neither intelligence, nor feeling, nor breath. He sleeps without consciousness, like grass or a piece of wood. Pleasure and suffering are meaningless to him now, and friend and enemy alike have deserted him."
The prince was troubled. He asked, "Is this a condition peculiar to this man? Or does the same end await all creatures?"
Then the charioteer answered, "The same end awaits all creatures, whether humble or of noble birth. To every being who lives in this world, death comes inevitably."
Siddhartha was totally shocked. As for the first time, the young prince living with every luxury encountered old age, disease, and death in reality. But it was the fourth sign that would definitely point to Siddhartha's future. A man wearing a single robe with a begging bowl. Why should anyone give up the pleasures of the world and walk the countryside begging? Asked the prince.
The charioteer replied, "Man has renounced such pleasures in order to confront reality and seek answers to this painful existence."
Siddhartha returned to his palace. His mind was seething with his new understanding of the world. The food and flowers around him would rot. Even the world of the palace would one day crumble. His beautiful wife and the lovely son would one day grow old and die as well. He had learned the meaning of impermanence. So Siddhartha decided to leave his family in order to seek the answers to life suffering.
When the sun finally appeared between the eyelids of night, the most noble man saw that he was near a wood where dwelt many pious hermits. Deer were asleep under the trees, and birds fluttered about fearlessly. Siddhartha felt rested, and he thought he need go no further. The pharaoh took off his shoes, his gorgeous robe, cut his long hair, and handed them to Jangaka, his charioteer, to take back to the palace.
Buddha saw a way to escape this inevitable cycle of old age, sickness, and death. He realized that if we removed the divine, we would remove dissatisfaction and suffering from our lives. The Buddha teaches his wisdom and the Four Noble Truths, which are the foundation of all Buddhist beliefs.
The first noble truth is the recognition of suffering in our lives. And the second noble truth is the diagnosis of the cause of that suffering, desire. In the third noble truth, the Buddha reveals that there is a cure for desire. And in the fourth truth, the Buddha gives a prescription to cure the illness and achieve enlightenment or the state of nirvana.
The Buddha would further teach the morality, the meditation and wisdom, which are the stepping stones towards enlightenment. He would dedicate the rest of his life helping others to follow this path, from suffering towards freedom. Thank you.
Very much for your excellent performance. And now, the masters would like to have a photo with all the group, the lives of the Buddha.